find the fish. Find the fish. Find the fish. I think we can all agree that finding the fish is the number one most important thing to consistently catching fish, right? Because regardless of if you have a $100,000 boat or all the nicest rods and reels and all the nicest tackle and a million slam shadies, you're not going to catch fish if you're in a dead zone. But the problem is so many of us don't have time to do the scouting and to be on the water every single day like a full-time guide. Well, don't worry. We have you covered. That is why we've come up with our smart fishing game plan. That's every single Friday morning, we put out a 10-minute video that literally shows you where to find the fish in your area. 10 minutes or less. That's all it takes. 10 minutes or less. We will get on satellite maps and actually show you the trends based on weather, based on the tides, and based on what's happening right now to help you go out there and consistently find the honey holes. It's free to all of our Salt Strong Insider members. That's our smart fishing game plan. So if you are a member, make sure to be checking out every Friday morning. We're coming up with a smart fishing game plan. If you're not a member, what the heck are you waiting on? This is just one more benefit on top of the 20 to 30% off all of our tackle, on top of all the how-tos and all the on-the-water reports and all the fishing reports we're putting up every single day, and the amazing community. You will now get the smart fishing game plan completely for free, part of your membership. Go to saltstrong.com to join us today. Here's the episode.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again. And I believe you're one of the few people, Bama Beach Bum, that has made on the podcast twice now.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been a couple of years.
It has.
But you're saying I'm one of the few. Is this correct?
It is correct. I think Tom Rowland was one, and that might be it. It might be just the two of you. I apologize if
I'm in the same company as Tom Rowland. I'm nervous now, Joe. Like, it's back to you.
You still can't out push up him. That dude can I think do more push ups than anyone in the state of Florida.
Yeah, I got some work to do, man.
But you made it on the podcast twice, and one of the big reasons is I know Wyatt's going to be heading over your way sooner than later to do a whole beach fishing mastery course. It's been one that's been asked for so many times, and we've really been waiting on the right person. And we've done a couple of things with you before. It's always worked out well. We love how you teach and how you present. And we're like, man, this is just going to be a killer course. So spoiler alert, we're working on a full-fledged like mastery course on everything you want to know about fishing the beach with Bama Beach Bum himself. And I think it's going to be spring, right? You guys are going to do that like when the Pompano are running and just have some epic footage. And
yeah, that's the plan anyway. You know, weather is you never know, especially in the spring. We get a lot of bad winds sometimes, but springtime for us in our particular area on the north central Gulf Coast, that's really the bullseye. That's when we really start to see our water temperatures get in that sweet spot, which for us, we'd like to see it around 68, 70 degrees consistently. You know, once we start seeing that consistency in there, that's when we're going to really start to see those pompano in large numbers. Because, you know, we've got residential fish, but of course we got the migratory fish that come through that time of year. We still got a whiting in there. You know, we start catching some big whiting, and you're still catching those big black drum. You know, they're kind of lingering still from that winter season when we catch those. And then you got your Spanish mackerel showing up, your king mackerel showing up. You got bait everywhere. You get opportunities late spring. You're starting to see those trout. It's just a glorious time, Joe. You know, we go this what feels like forever in our winter season when you can't find a dang fish anywhere. It seems like on the beach, and then you hit spring and it just starts clicking. And hopefully, when Wyatt comes, he'll get to experience some of the beauty of what we get to experience on the north central Gulf Coast.
As George Costanza from Seinfeld would say, it's rebirth, rejuvenation, springtime, baby. And it all starts happening.
I know. Yeah, we're so close, man. It's like the end of February. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah. And we're here at the end. And I mean, heck, I know you're actually close to me. You're in Orlando right now. And dude, it's at like 90 degrees this week. So
I know. I was packing for this trip, and I've been in like 6 layers of clothing the last 2 months where I am. And I was throwing in my shorts and my t-shirts. I was literally like dancing, packing, getting ready for this trip. I was so stoked. It's awesome down here.
Love it. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that in terms of traveling and how to catch fish on the beach, because that seems to be when I do a lot of my surf fishing and fishing from the beach is when I'm on vacation, don't have a boat, don't have a kayak, but I have a rod and reel. And I think that's what a lot of people want to hear is, all right, like, I don't want to have to buy a 9-foot surf rod. I don't have to buy all this fancy stuff. How do I go out there and just catch fish with the stuff I have? Like, what are some of we'll talk about the mistakes, misconceptions, what to avoid, and talk about overall rigs. And I guess let's start though with like feeling out of beach, because that seems to be the number one question is I get to a beach and I have no idea where to start. It all looks the same. It's just a bunch of sand. Occasionally you might be in an area with, a jetty or some rocks, and that's obviously some type of structure. But in general, beaches are, they're kind of long, and for the average eye, it does kind of look the same. Like how do you go to maybe a spot you haven't fished before, and where do you start? Like, how do you pick a couple good spots?
Yeah, the main thing I'm looking for anytime I go to the beach is depth. Anytime I can find a deeper area, and that's consistent with most styles of fishing, especially saltwater fishing. Depth is in general gonna hold bait, gonna hold fish, and you can do it a couple of ways. And there's a lot of technicalities to reading the surf, but the 2 best ways you can, if number one is with the waves. If you understand how waves work, they're going to break. They're going to white cap and break over shallower water, and they're going to maintain their shape and form and not break over deeper water. So if you have a little bit of wave action that day, you can just kind of look at that, stand back, get on a high point of that beach before you approach the water. Just stand back and watch. I'd say give yourself at least 5 minutes, because, of course, you got sets and how these waves are coming to the beach. If you just look for a second, it's not going to always be consistent. So you want to just get a little bit of consistency and stand there for about 5 minutes, take a beat, take a breath.
Yep.
Just watch, and just see what you can tell, where it seems like those waves are keeping their shape. And any area that looks like it's maintaining shape closest to the beach, where that water's pretty deep, that's an area you want to focus in. We don't always have waves. We don't always have the luxury of pretty waves coming in. Sometimes it's pretty flat, pretty calm, especially along our area in the north central Gulf Coast. And the other way is, of course, if you have polarized lenses and you've got a sunny day, hopefully, you can just kind of look at the water. You're going to have to go midday at this. You're not going to be able to get out there at 6 a.m. and be able to see this, but you can see color change in the water. Anywhere that you see the darker colors, that's going to be your deeper water. Lighter colors, shallower water. So those are the 2 ways that you're going to be able to read the beach is with waves and color change in water. Another real simple way, this is probably the easiest way. Forget all that stuff that I just said. If you can't keep up with that, if you are just, it's too confusing for you, if you don't have those options, you can go down to the beach, walk down, and just look at the sand. Stand and look down the beach, look at the sand, and you're going to see some different features just on the sand itself. You'll see points, you'll see carve outs up and down that beach. A point, generally, that's going to be an area where that shallower water is going to run out to the bar. So you're going to have that point running generally out to the bar. So that's going to be shallower. And then anytime you see those little carve outs, that's like a little bowl, there's going to probably be deeper water up close to the beach. There's going to be that pocket. What that is where the rip current, where that energy from these waves are hitting the beach, that's got to go somewhere. So that energy is going back out, and it's carving out the sand. It's digging out a hole, a pocket, as it's continuing to hit the beach and then go back out into the Gulf or into the ocean. And you've got that carve out. So that's a few ways you can do it. And I would just focus anywhere you can. Now, I always tell people this too: fish along the beach, they can be caught anywhere. Doesn't mean they're not going to be in the shallow water. It's not like, oh, don't ever throw a bait there. But in general, you're going to be a little bit more consistent if you can find those deeper holes for your pompano, for your whiting. But in different scenarios, they will be in shallower water. So there's no bad place to cast, but there are just better places to cast.
And for a beach bum, you're quite knowledgeable, my friend. All right.
That was a long answer, hopefully.
That was awesome. So let's keep going down that path. So we found a pocket, a cutout, a deeper zone.
Mm-hmm.
How do we fish it? Do we just throw whatever lure or bait right in the middle of it? Do you throw around it? What's the best way, assuming they're going to be down in there, right, waiting for bait fish and shrimp or whatever to come through? How do we fish that area to maximize the amount of strikes we get?
Sure. And before we dive into that, I want to put a disclaimer on this, because obviously, and as an educational platform for fishing, we get real technical, and we want to be technical, and we want to be successful. But let's not forget, and I try to present this with surf fishing. There's two approaches to it. One is the technical side of things, where we want to go out, we want to be serious about it. We want to go catch some dang fish. But the essence of surf fishing, we got to remember it, and what attracted me to it in the beginning is the relaxation of it. If you just want to go sit on the beach and throw a bait out, there's two different types of people. They want to sit there and drink beer, enjoy some time with their family, throw a rod out, and that's totally okay. Don't get too bogged down with this stuff. But if you want to get serious, you definitely want to start focusing on what's going to be more successful. So when you see this hole, when you see this pocket, if you want to go out there and be successful, you want to make sure that you have a target in mind. That's when I really started in my journey surf fishing. It being more successful is understanding the species that I wanted to catch.
Oh, now, man. I'm so glad you said that. We just did a podcast on that, right? Because when you first start fishing, you go to a pier and you ask the dude, "Hey, what are you fishing for?" Anything little bite. But the guys who like I talk about Captain Peter Deeks, who's got like multiple world records. When I go fish with him, that's the last thing in the world he would say. He's like, this first spot, we're only going for trout. This is going to be trout only. And he's got it literally dialed in with exactly how he's going to position his boat. Yeah. He knows exactly where they are, where they're facing based on their biology. It's night and day. So I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah. And that's the point I wanted to bring up. I mean, for the person that just wants to go and catch anything, you can do that. That's surf fishing in its essence. But you can start to drill down on this stuff and start to be more successful and be more serious about it when you do start to target species. And we could go on for a really long time on the different species and opportunities that you're going to have throughout the year on surf fishing. I don't know how much we want to dive into.
No, we'll do that in the course. This will be a general, yes, because this is still about.
That's a very broad. There's a lot. I mean, my brain is just popping off right now. The different species and how I target them. And
so let's stick with the person that just wants to get tight lines, and then we'll talk about what bait, like what's like the ultimate one or two rigs that you would use. But stick with, we found the deeper area, because even if I'm sitting there with a beer in hand and a chair, I still want to have my bait in the better area. So assume we found a better area. How do we fish that area, and what are we fishing with?
Sure. Yeah. I would, the simplest rig, pompano rig, you can go and buy if you don't even want to tie it yourself, you can go buy it in the store. And, what I would look for, back when I first started surf fishing, you didn't have like nice hand tied pompano rigs readily available at the tackle shop. That now you've got like 30 different brands of pompano rigs that you can choose from. But the main thing, just something that's mono or fluorocarbon leader. I would avoid. I see a lot of folks that come down on vacation. We call them Walmart rigs or Guggen rigs. That's kind of the terminology we use. But it's like the wire double drop rigs. It's like 100-pound wire with metal everywhere. And I used it when I very first started surf fishing, almost 10 years ago. That was the first rig I threw out. So I get it. But I would avoid that. Or they use the killer bee bait, the stuff that's frozen at Walmart. Avoid that stuff. You're going to have a lot more success if you just skip that part. Go to a local tackle store, pick you up some pompano rigs. They'll be able to guide you there. There's a lot of different color options. It's gotten so confusing now, just from like, okay, there's so many options now. Yeah. Where do I go? As long as you got a good leader and something colorful, double drop. Throw on some synthetic bait, from fish gum, fish bites. Get you some fresh dead shrimp if you can. Cut up little pieces, put it on the hooks there with your synthetic baits. Toss it in that deeper water, and you're going to have a really good opportunity at catching some decent fish, if it's the right time of year. That in the simplest form, that's what I would do. Just pompano rig, synthetic bait, fresh dead shrimp, and you're rocking and rolling.
So for those that have never heard of a pompano rig or can't envision it, can you try to explain what it looks like and the weight at the bottom, just the whole kit and caboodle of what they should be looking? Because it is. You go into some of these tackle stores near beaches today, and it's like looking at jig heads. You're like, whoa, there's all these different colors and sizes. What do I go with?
Yeah. Your pompano rig, it's a double drop rig or a chicken rig. There's different terminology for that as well. But it's gonna have a barrel swivel at the top. That you tie it to your main line, so it's real easy to attach. And then it's gonna go down about, depending on the rig, it's gonna be anywhere from 8 to 10 inches. It's gonna have its first little dropper rig where the line's coming off of that main line, and you're gonna have a float. There's all the different styles of floats, different colors of floats, but some type of float or bead or both may have a float and a bead, and then some type of hook. Most of them are tied with circle hooks or tail hooks. You're not going to see a lot of J hooks on pompano rigs, which I wouldn't recommend. I would, if there are some with the J hook, I would kind of stay away from that. I'd go with the tail hook or circle hook if you can. Hopefully you're familiar with that, if you're looking at these things, but you can ask questions there. But yeah, I would go that route because the style of fishing, it's called set rig fishing, where you're not holding the rod in most cases. You're putting it in a sand spike, or you're not necessarily there, and you want that fish to set the hook itself. So that tail hook or that circle hook is going to do that for you. And then the double drop rig is going to go down another 8 to 10 inches, and you're going to have another line coming off that main line with the same kind of tackle on it with the float and the hook. And then down at the bottom, depending on the rig, it may have just a loop, or it may have like a snap swivel, and that's where you're going to attach your weight. And most of the time, there's different weight options too. You got Sputniks and spiders and pyramids and storm weights, and you can go through the whole gamut of options there. Me personally, I've always and only ever used pyramid weights. Where we fish in particular, we don't really get super strong currents. We don't get super strong surf in most cases. So like we're using anywhere from 1 to 3 ounce pyramid sinkers. Now, depending on the location, if you're fishing on the east coast of Florida, you're on the Atlantic Ocean side, you get a lot more stronger currents and a lot rougher surf. A lot of those guys, if they're using pyramid weights, which they don't very often, they'll use up to like 8 ounces, 6 or 8 ounces, or even the Sputnik weights is what we call it. It's kind of like a teardrop weight with some like wire pieces coming off of it that kind of anchors itself into the sand, and it holds a lot better. We don't necessarily need all that. They're more expensive. There's just more moving parts to it. If you can get away from that, I would recommend it, but sometimes you need it. So, but that's where you're going to attach your weight, is at the bottom of that pompano rig. And I would just look for something, if you're in our area, 1 to 3 ounces, get a few options there, because you're going to need that depending on how rough the surf is. If it's super calm, you can get by with a 1 ounce. But if you've got a little bit of surf, and it's a little windy, a little bit rough, you may have to put the 3 ounce weight on there.
Cool. And, we were in Daytona Beach, which is an area that has pretty big surf, and there, it's a great place to actually surf. Thankfully, it was pretty low while we were there. And all we had was our normal 7.6, medium rods that we have from TFO. And we went and tied our own little pompano rigs,
found my daughter was picking up little sand fleas, and we had a little bit of fish bites, and we caught fish. We caught pompano and flounder right there using our exact same rod that we're using for trout and redfish on the flats. And so I think to me, that was a big misconception that, I got to have all new surf rods and these monster, reels with 4,000 million yards of line, because I'm going to, catch some that's going to be spooling me. And you don't, there are times, obviously, if you're shark fishing or going for big tarpon, that you need that. But just to get tight lines and get maybe some whiting and some pompano, even some little flounder, depending on where you are, you don't need to recreate all your tackle. You just need, a couple of the right rigs and the right bait. So.
Yeah, bass gear will get you by in most scenarios. We use for surf fishing, like as you get more serious and get into it, you're going to see the advantages to having the larger gear. It's not for the fish, but it's for the conditions. Most of the fish that you're going to catch in the surf are going to be 1 to 3 pounds. Like 90% of the fish you catch are going to be small fish. So light tackle is really the way to go. And you can get by with a really light tackle in our area that I fish primarily. Now, it is a little bit more difficult to get by on a regular basis on the East Coast, from my understanding and from my experiences, just because it is a little bit, you will need that heavier gear to throw those heavier leads and to stick in that. And even in our area, you need it from time to time. But if you're just coming down on vacation, you're going to be there for a week, you got some bass gear, you can most definitely fish effectively for a few days with your bass gear and a pompano rig and catch fish. And the other thing too, obviously with the larger gear, big misconception is, you want to throw these baits to, Cuba from the sand. Everybody out there, they're long cast and they're trying to just heave it. They'll wade out there till they're neck deep and just throw it as far as they can, thinking, I got to get out there to catch fish. Most of these fish, you will be very surprised, are within 10 to 15 yards of the sand. I mean, they are so close. I always, doesn't matter what I'm fishing for, I always will have a bait 10 to 15 yards, at least one, but most of the time that's all I fish. I may have 3 rigs out and they're all 10 to 15 yards from the sand. They're very close. So, you don't have to cast really far to be successful in the surf. Most cases, those deep pockets that we're talking about, those carve outs, that deep water, I kind of touched on it, but you want to find that deepest water closest to the beach. That's kind of the caveat there, because anytime you find that deep water close to the beach, I can almost guarantee you if there are fish running anywhere along that stretch, that's where they're going to be.
That's awesome. In general, because we're going to go in depth on all the different rigs and everything you can possibly imagine about surf fishing, regardless of where you are. But in general, if you're on vacation, is 10-pound braid still enough? Or are you going up? Tell me what you're using in terms of your reel and your line.
Yeah, the main line on my light tackle setups, which I use what's called steelhead rods. They're used for steelhead fishing, and they're kind of lighter action rods, but they still have a lot of length to them. Like they're 9 to 10 feet. Mm-hmm. And I use those on my light setups, and I use a 2,000 size spinning reel, and I load those with 10-pound braid. And that's what if it's flat calm, and it's a calm day, I can use it most days where I fish. That's all I'm going to use. I'm going to take those 3 rigs with me, and I can cast them plenty far enough to where I can get to fish. And I'm going to pompano fish. I'm going to whiting fish. I'll drum fish, all of it with that. So 10-pound is fine. Now, when you start getting into heavier gear, my bigger surf setups, which again, it's not for the fish, it's for conditions. If it's rougher, or if I do need to get baits out deeper, if pompano are running deep, sometimes you do need to cast really far out there. Mm-hmm. I run 20 to 30-pound braid. And again, that's not for the fish. That's because I'm throwing heavier leads, and I want them to not snap or whatever. I may be throwing 3, 4, 5 ounces to get further out, and also to hold in those conditions.
Yep, that's good. Let's flip it, because we love talking about lures here. I remember growing up, Luke and I, kind of our first experience with beach fishing was in Marco Island, and all we had were They were made Millie's white bucktail jigs, and that's what we were throwing. We were going after snook for the most part, and we were just walking. Right, that to us that was part of the adventure. Is no chairs, just a little tackle bag and one rod and one reel, and praying it didn't get broken off with a little bit extra line, but that was it. And then we'd have Millie's white bucktail jigs, and we caught some nice snook. What do you use if that was your intention? Maybe you're walking with your spouse and she didn't want to be sitting still and you're just taking a nice walk, but you still want to be making casts. What are you using?
Now you're dead. If I'm somewhere where there's snook, which we don't have them, unfortunately, where we are. I've done some beach snook fishing. I'd probably either have a bucktail or a slam shady tied on.
Oh,
if I'm going for snook. But if I'm in our area, I would tie on something shiny, because everything eats it, whether it be a spoon of some sort or a diamond jig, or, even a pompano jig. Something like that. If you're walking the beach and you just want to catch fish, anything like that. And there's a lot of options there. But yeah, anything shiny, you throw it in the surf, especially late spring throughout the summer in our area, you're going to catch fish, and that's the thing too, that's really cool about surf fishing. Obviously we've talked about all these species that are a little bit more desirable among the people that fish saltwater regularly, but there's a lot of species of fish that are really fun to catch that kind of get ignored, like from your ladyfish and your blue runners. Those are really fun fish to catch, or even bluefish. A lot of times people don't, give bluefish much attention, but they're a really cool fish to catch. And, so you get a lot of opportunities, a lot of different species of fish that is a lot of fun, that you can have a really great vacation if you just walk and that's all you bring. Like, you don't even have to fool with any of the other stuff. I mean, if you just bring a bass set up and tie on a spoon, you can have loads of fun for an entire week of fishing.
I assume you're going a little bit heavier. Like, we're using a 1/4 ounce spoon. You're going a little bit heavier for the surf. Or are you not?
I throw a 1/4 ounce a lot. Like a Johnson spoon type deal, a gold or silver spoon. I'll throw that a lot. Now you're going to run into some issues if it's windy, for rougher surf. If you have a rig that can throw an ounce, then that's the money. And I would say what I like throwing are diamond jigs, which diamond jigs, they're more linear. And the weight of it just cuts through the way that it's designed. It's not broad. It's thin, and it just cuts through the wind real well. It's great for surf fishing, and it's real easy to use. I would, if you're tying it on your bass rig, definitely use some heavier leader, because you're going to run into some toothy critters out there from bluefish and Spanish, and even the ladyfish. They have real abrasive mouths, so they'll pop your leader. Anything from 30 up to 50-pound leader. Tie that diamond jig on 1 ounce and just throw it as far as you can, walk up and down the beach. Don't worry about looking at features or anything, just cover some water. And from time to time, you'll see the fish, they'll be blowing up. And a lot of times, especially early in the mornings, those fish, you're almost standing on them. I mean, they push bait early in the mornings, these late spring and throughout the summer. I mean, literally you'll see dead bait fish all over the beach. You're like, what's this from? And if you didn't get out there early in the morning, you didn't see it, but they're pushing bait onto the beach, and they're just throwing baits on the beach. And you can just throw your spoon or diamond jig in there and catch fish literally at your feet. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, artificial fishing on the beach is my favorite thing. Like last year, I put a lot of heavy focus into that. I set rig fished a handful of times last year, and pretty much anytime I was on the beach, all I was doing was throwing some type of artificial. I love, personally, my favorite thing to do is throwing big plugs. I love throwing big poppers, big X wraps, big spoons, because we get Jack Crevalle, we get the redfish that eat that stuff. You get opportunities of big bluefish. I mean, like, that's what gets me jacked, is throwing those big lures for those big fish on the beach, which that's something else you can get into too.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely be covering that in the full course. It's gonna be good. So let's kind of end it with some mistakes to avoid. We've talked about a couple. What are some other things that when you're in the beach and you see someone new and you're like, oh man, I wish I could just tell them this, or maybe you do go tell them.
I can't help myself these days, I have to. But yeah, we touched on too, and just to recap on those, number one, avoid the bad rigs. Try to not get stuff that's too heavy from wire and metal and bad bait. That's a big mistake. You get fresh bait, you're always going to win if you're using dead baits there with fresh bait, or thinking you got to cast too far. A lot of people I see so often, just trying to bomb baits when they're throwing over so many fish. Those are the biggest things. And even still, it's funny to me. I run into, where I am and with what I do, I run into so many people that watch my videos, and I get to meet them, which is neat. And even still, I walk up and talk to them, and they're like, yeah, I love your videos, watch videos all the time. And I look at the rigs and I look at where they're casting. I'm like, you must not be paying a lick of attention. This is like nothing like how I fish or what I do, and I'll kind of, explain things, and maybe I'm just a terrible communicator. I don't know. And they're not getting the message, but it's definitely the two biggest things that I see mistakes is people just using the wrong rigs, wrong baits, and also just casting too far, which again, fish will be there. You'll catch fish, but you're going to have so much more fun and so much more success if you do start putting your baits closer to the beach.
That's awesome. I think you're one of the best at replying to your funny comments on it. I get such a kick because we're friends on Facebook, and you'll post some of that stuff personally, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what are some good ones that have happened recently? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about the craziness that happens on a platform called YouTube, because it's unlike Facebook, where we have to actually, put a real email address in and have a real picture. And for the most part, YouTube, it's the Wild West. So you can have 30,000 accounts if you want to, as long as you can create enough email addresses. And you have people who are basically anonymous and say some of the most outrageous, off the wall things because no one knows who they are. And we all have some funny ones. You have some, you bring light to some pretty hilarious ones. What are some good ones recently?
There's so many. I can't think. The theme though that's really funny that I never knew that this would have been as big of a deal as it is. But like I got my long hair. So many grown men are really concerned with my physical appearance. I just did not realize that was going to be a hang up for a lot of these guys, like guys that will legit say, I can't even watch your channel anymore because of your hair. Okay, man, I don't get it, but that's fine. That's you, brother. But the things that people say, it really blows my mind. If I'm being real honest with you, Joe, I mean, there's times I watch things and, I may think something, and be like, whatever, but it's nothing I would ever say to anybody.
Yeah.
But when you're behind a keyboard, you get real brave, and people like to express their opinions, and, so we get the brunt of that. But it's just something it's how I pass the time sometimes. I just like going through my comments and finding those really juicy ones, those ones that really coming after me and make some smart aleck response. I can get that, smart aleck tendency in me sometimes. And so it just comes out.
Yeah. And some of these people are absolute trolls, because if they're talking about fish cruelty and all this, and no one should ever fish, like, why are you watching a YouTuber who literally does nothing but fish? Because we get the same stuff. I was like, oh my goodness. Luke got the same thing with his hair. We still get comments that come in.
I'm not surprised,
because he's got similar hair length to you, and he just kind of lets it go. Like, he doesn't use product or anything, and it's just kind of out there and in the wind. And it's funny how many people ask, hey, when you getting a haircut? And
it's just for me, I've just never even given a second thought to another man's appearance, honestly. Like, I did not know that it would matter. But my wife 100%, honestly, she likes it.
That's all you can ask for. That's all that matters.
That's what we're going for.
No, I think it looks great. I used to have longer hair and just got tired of dealing with it.
I think it helps you catch fish. Like
I think you're right.
I think the longer your hair, the bigger and the more fish you catch.
Well, to me, it gives more credibility than because that's what my brother used to be the opposite. He looked like a banker. He was, he was clean shaven, had a short cut, and now like he has caught more fish ever since he's let it grow.
You can't be looking like a banker and out there, crushing fish, man. I mean, you got to have something going on.
All right. Well, where can everyone find you? YouTube channel's the #1 spot, but I know you're on Instagram and everywhere else. But Bama Beach Bum.
Yeah. If you go to YouTube, you type in Bama Beach Bum, it'll pull up my channel, and you can find some stupid videos. You can find some educational videos. Whatever. We got all kinds of, over the last 4 or 5 years now. It's just there's just a conglomeration of all kinds of stuff on there. But the theme is fishing. I fish, and you'll learn something, or at least be entertained at some point. I promise.
Yeah, it'll most likely be both. How often do you put new videos up now? What's the goal?
My schedule, I try to stick with 3 videos a week.
That's good.
It's tough, sometimes depending on the ability of me to get content. I may have to back it down to 2 a week, but most weeks I try to upload like a Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday kind of schedule.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Cool, brother. And then on Instagram, same thing.
Yeah, it's on Instagram, it's Bama Beach Bum _fishing. I couldn't get just the Bama Beach Bum on that.
Who's got that? Some punk?
I don't know, man. I'm not sure.
Someone got Salt Strong. I mean, it's a trademark name, and some dude who's got just a few posts has Salt Strong. We technically could probably take it from him, but we haven't. We see it. Let him have it. So we're the Salt Strong. But it always bugged me that some dude got there first. Back when Instagram was in its infancy. Yeah.
But I've run across that a few things that it's funny, somebody had Bama Beach Bum on Facebook. And Facebook, I think you can both have it. And he ended up closing his account because I had posted something about it, and a lot of my followers went and started commenting, and it drove him crazy. And social media, man, like the things you can do, it's pretty wild. The world we live in,
it is crazy.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Yes. Well, dude, we're really pumped about this beach course, and I'm actually begging Wyatt that I can come. I was like, man, I'll be a videographer, whatever you need.
Come on, man.
That'll be a fun one. It'll be a fun one. Well, dude, enjoy the time with the family. They're in Florida. Going to get some fishing done here.
Yep. Headed to Okeechobee today. I'll be fishing there the next 2 days.
Awesome.
Doing some bass fishing, which is definitely not my thing. I'm not a bass fisherman. Don't claim to be. But, I got some buddies that are fishing Okeechobee. I assume you probably fished it.
Oh, yeah.
You're pretty close.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's one of those things, as any fisherman, if you get that opportunity in your lifetime, you should take that opportunity.
Oh, yeah. And expect you're going with people that know the lake, like have fished it and know.
Yeah. Experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's, obviously a pretty big body of water. Otherwise, you're like, where do I even launch? It's massive. So yeah, that'll be blast, dude. Looking forward to seeing some footage from that.
Yeah.
Oh, brother, stay bummy. I know you will.
Yeah.
And, I'll beat you to your own line. And really, really pumped about this beach course. We'll keep all you guys updated when we have more. Make sure to go follow Bama Beach Bum there on all the social media platforms. And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure to go to saltstrong.com in the fishing tips section. You'll see in a blog post, we'll put links to everything, and you can ask us questions. And I'll make sure to forward them over if there's anything specific, as long as it has nothing to do with hair or hair products.
I'd be happy to answer those questions.
Okay, we will be happy to answer those. So, hair products are now in play. So, all right, guys, appreciate you, brother, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Thanks, Joe.
Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul, it was pain.